Welcome back to my YouTube channel, everyone, and thank you for joining us once again on this amazing journey where we explore the world of rare coins, unbelievable discoveries, and the hidden treasures that might be sitting quietly in your pocket change without you even realizing their true value. And today's deep dive is something truly extraordinary because we're talking about a coin that most people would overlook entirely, a coin that millions of Americans have touched, spent, or tossed into jars without a second thought. Yet a single example of this simple nickel has been claimed to be worth a mind-blowing $5 million due to a unique combination of errors, mistakes, minting anomalies, and exceptional circumstances that make it unlike anything collectors have witnessed in decades, and that coin is the 1996 5-cent piece. A humble Denver minted nickel transformed into a multi-million-dollar treasure by a chain of events so rare, so improbable, and so absolutely fascinating that collectors and treasure hunters around the world have been captivated by the mere possibility of such an example existing, and today we're going to explore in exhaustive detail exactly what makes this particular year and mintmark combination so special, why certain errors are capable of raising the value from just 5 cents to millions, what types of mistakes at the mint could produce such a legendary coin, why the market responds so intensely to rare anomalies, and why even the slightest variation in planchet composition, strike pressure, die deterioration, or minting environment can elevate a coin's status from ordinary circulation to priceless numismatic phenomenon as we unravel every possible scenario that could contribute to this extraordinary valuation, starting first with the context of the 1996 nickel itself. A coin minted in massive quantities and intended for everyday use, created during a period when the U.S. Mint was focusing heavily on fast production and high output. And whenever there is high-speed production involving billions of coins, the door opens for rare mistakes, and sometimes those mistakes slip past quality checks unnoticed because the sheer volume of coins makes microscopic inspection almost impossible, meaning that rare minting errors are not only plausible but expected, though extremely scarce, and what truly transforms the 1996 nickel into a multi-million-dollar marvel is a unique combination of these rare circumstances layering together, forming an error coin so spectacularly unusual that it becomes essentially one of a kind, and among the most discussed possibilities contributing to this massive valuation is an off-metal strike error, something that occurs when a coin is accidentally struck on a planchet intended for another denomination, another metal, or even another country's coinage, and imagine a 1996 nickel accidentally struck on a copper cent planchet, or more dramatically on a silver planchet. Left over from older mint stock, or perhaps even on a foreign planchet mistakenly fed into the presses due to overlapping mint contracts, because during the 1990s, the U.S. Mint produced blanks for multiple foreign nations, which means that unexpected planchets could feasibly find their way into U.S. coin presses, making the resulting coin wildly desirable to collectors due to its rarity and historical peculiarity, and if such an off-metal strike was perfectly centered, showing strong details on both the obverse and reverse, the coin's uniqueness would skyrocket its desirability, pushing it into the multi-million-dollar realm for those whose passion lies in owning the rarest minting accidents, and the next major possibility behind such a massive valuation is a dramatic double strike error in which the coin is struck twice, but not in the typical minor way where the second impression overlaps subtly. Instead, we are talking about a major misalignment where the second strike is dramatically rotated, repositioned, or even offset by a substantial percentage, producing a coin with doubled features of Jefferson's portrait, overlapped lettering, distorted rims, and unusually shaped fields that collectors crave due to their unmistakable visual impact. And even more extreme is the concept of a double denomination strike, where the coin is struck once as a different denomination and then struck again as a nickel, such as a cent over nickel or dime over nickel hybrid, creating a mismatched fusion that hardly ever escapes quality control and thus commands astronomical value when it does, resulting in a coin with overlapping designs, conflicting impressions, and a chaotic blend of two denominations that would immediately be recognized as a once-in-a-lifetime error. And then there are die-related errors such as die cracks, die breaks, shattered dies, and die cuts, which occur when the metal dies used to strike coins begin to fracture or deteriorate, resulting in raised lines, blobs, missing sections, or unusual distortions on the coin's surface. And while normal die cracks don't make coins worth millions, an extreme scenario where a die catastrophically fails mid-production, leaving behind dramatic raised metal features or severe loss of detail, could create a coin with a completely unique visual structure unlike any other, especially if it coincided with other mint errors in the same strike, amplifying the rarity exponentially, and another massively influential factor in multimillion-dollar coin valuations is the condition of the coin, and when we talk about a theoretically $5 million 1996 D nickel, we must consider the possibility that such a coin would have to be in near-perfect condition, perhaps even an uncirculated or specimen-like state, showing razor-sharp details, pristine surfaces, and no evidence of wear, meaning that the coin either never entered circulation or was quickly removed before damage could occur, and if that exceptionally preserved condition happens to combine with one of the major errors we've described, the result is a breathtakingly rare specimen whose existence defies statistical probability, and such combinations can create legends in numismatics, coins that collectors compete fiercely to acquire because they represent perfection through imperfection, a contradiction that fascinates enthusiasts and investors alike. And another dimension of rarity lies in mule errors, which occur when the obverse die of one coin type is accidentally paired with the reverse die of another denomination, resulting in a mismatched hybrid coin that should not exist under normal mint procedures, and if a 1996 D nickel were somehow struck using the reverse of a dime or the obverse of a quarter or any other incorrect pairing, the resulting anomaly would be so extraordinary that it could immediately command astronomical prices due to its rarity, historical significance, and sheer shock factor, since mule errors are among the most coveted and valuable errors in coin collecting, and only a handful have ever been discovered throughout U.S. mint history, making any newly discovered example capable of generating multi-million-dollar excitement within the collecting community, and yet another possibility lies in a broad strike error combined with a missing collar, causing the coin to expand beyond its normal diameter and appear stretched or spread out, and though broad strikes alone do not normally justify extreme valuations, a combination involving broad strike, off-metal and double strike all in the same coin would create an error so dramatic that it would resemble a minting Frankenstein, a rarity produced by an improbable chain reaction of mechanical failures, and when such an error remains intact long enough to escape the mint, enter circulation and eventually be discovered by someone who recognizes its significance, the resulting coin becomes a legendary treasure whose existence seems almost miraculous. And speaking of miraculous, another scenario involves a wrong planchet composition error in which the metal composition of the blank does not match the intended proportions for a nickel, and although nickel planchets are made from a copper-nickel alloy, it is always possible for anomalies to occur, such as planchets struck from incorrect alloy mixtures, experimental compositions, or transitional period metals left over from prior strikes, and if a 1996 D nickel were struck on a composition that deviated significantly from its standard alloy, resulting in an unusual color, weight or magnetic reaction, such a coin would be classified as a rare metallurgical error, especially if the coin exhibits sharp details and full striking, and this type of unexpected variation tends to attract intense attention from advanced collectors and researchers fascinated by minting science. And further possibilities include partial collar strikes, off-center strikes, misaligned dies, rotating dies, and tilted dies, all of which can create visual distortions in the coin's image, rim or lettering, and while mild versions of these errors are common and inexpensive, extreme examples where the strike is severely off-center yet retains portions of the design in crisp detail can become incredibly valuable, particularly when combined with other errors, creating a cascading anomaly effect that transforms a simple strike mistake. Next, 1997 D5 quarter coin. And thank you for joining us once again on this exciting journey where we explore the unbelievable world of rare coins, shocking mint errors, hidden treasures and overlooked gems that might be sitting right now in your pocket change without you ever imagining the kind of life-changing fortune they could bring. And today's deep dive is centered around a seemingly ordinary coin that millions of Americans have handled, spent, saved, tossed into jars and ignored for decades, a coin so common at first glance that you might walk past it without a second thought, but within that typical appearance lies the potential for a specimen so extraordinarily rare, so impossibly unique, so dramatically affected by minting mistakes that a single example of this otherwise humble nickel has been claimed to hold a value of up to $4 million, and that coin is the 1997 D5 cent piece, a Denver minted nickel that under normal circumstances would be worth only its face value but under exceptional error conditions could become one of the most valuable modern nickels ever discovered, and today we will explore in immense detail every single possibility, every error type, every minting anomaly, every hypothetical chain of events and every extreme situation that could turn a simple 1997 D nickel into a $4 million treasure capable of shocking even the most seasoned collectors, and this exploration will take us from the inner workings of the mint to the unpredictable behavior of machinery, from the composition of the metal to the delicate relationship between dies and planchets, from the realm of off-metal strikes to double denominations, from die breaks to mule pairings, from massive mechanical failures to rare transitional compositions, all contributing to the awe-inspiring possibility that one single coin produced in 1997 at the Denver Mint could defy all expectations and become a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. So let's begin by understanding the foundation of the 1997 D nickel, a coin minted in extremely large numbers as part of regular circulation, struck by high-speed presses designed to create hundreds of coins per minute, which means that any deviation in the minting process, whether microscopic or dramatic, could result in errors that were not detected before the coins were released. And when billions of coins are produced across various facilities throughout a year, the chances for rare mistakes exist, though they are incredibly small, and when a rare mistake does slip through, it can create a coin that stands out as one of the most extraordinary minting accidents ever recorded, and this is exactly what collectors dream about when they hear the possibility of a 1997 D nickel being worth millions. Because such value would only be possible through the presence of errors so dramatic and so unique that the coin essentially becomes one of one, a specimen never before seen and likely never to be repeated. And one of the primary errors capable of contributing to such a massive valuation is the off-metal strike error, which occurs when a coin is struck on the wrong type of planchet, meaning a blank intended for a different denomination, or even for a different country, is mistakenly fed into the coining press, and during the 1990s the U.S. Mint produced planchets for several foreign nations, creating an environment where a stray blank of incorrect composition could accidentally enter the presses, resulting in a coin that looks, weighs or reacts differently than a standard nickel, such as being struck on a copper-cent planchet, a dime planchet, a clad planchet, a foreign coin blank intended for a Caribbean or Central American country, or even a leftover silver experimental blank that somehow survived older production runs. And if such an off-metal strike occurred in 1997 with the Denver mintmark and produced a coin with crisp details, strong strike patterns and full design impressions, the rarity would be astronomical because collectors prize off-metal strikes due to their unmistakable deviation from normal coins, and the more dramatic the deviation, the higher the value, and when an off-metal strike combines with perfect centering, perfect alignment and exceptional preservation, the price can skyrocket, reaching hundreds of thousands or even millions in extreme cases. And this hypothetical 1997 D nickel worth $4 million would almost certainly need such an off-metal foundation. But that is only the beginning, because to reach such a staggering value, additional errors must also be present, such as double strike errors, which occur when a coin is struck twice, but instead of the second strike landing in almost the same position, it lands dramatically rotated, offset or misaligned, creating overlapping designs, doubled letters, distorted rims and chaotic patterns across the coin. And if a 1997 D nickel were struck once on a wrong metal blank and then struck again out of alignment or out of the collar, the resulting coin would be nothing short of breathtaking in its rarity, because double strike errors combined with off-metal errors form one of the rarest combinations in numismatic history, and collectors would immediately recognize the significance of such an anomaly, driving the value to extraordinary levels. And beyond double strikes, we must consider double denomination errors, where a coin is first struck as one denomination and then struck again as another, such as being struck first as a cent and then struck again as a nickel, or first as a dime and then struck again as a nickel, producing a bizarre hybrid coin that should not exist under any normal minting scenario, and such a coin would display partial designs from both denominations, conflicting engravings, overlapping imagery, and a truly unique appearance that would attract intense collector attention. And if a 1997 D nickel exhibited this dual denomination structure, it would be one of the rarest modern errors ever known, especially if combined with off-metal and double strike characteristics. And then we have mule errors, which occur when the obverse die of one coin is mistakenly paired with the reverse die of another denomination, creating a coin that displays mismatched designs that were never intended to appear together. And mule errors are among the rarest mint mistakes in the world, with only a handful ever discovered, and if a mule error involving a 1997 D nickel somehow emerged, such as having a nickel obverse paired with a dime or quarter reverse or vice versa, the combination of wrong dies, wrong pairing and unexpected minting sequences would make the coin so rare that collectors would be willing to pay almost any price for it, and this possibility forms part of the massive valuation we're discussing, and then we must consider catastrophic die failures, such as massive die cracks, die breaks, shattered dies or die cuts, which occur when the die used to strike coins fractures or deteriorates to the point where large sections collapse or crack, producing raised metal ridges, missing design elements or distorted surfaces, and while small die cracks are common, large catastrophic die breaks are incredibly rare, especially when preserved in high-grade condition, and if such a catastrophic die break occurred on a coin that already had an off-metal or double strike error, the resulting combination would be extraordinary, making the coin a historic minting anomaly unlike any other, and advanced collectors would pay staggering amounts to own it, and we must also explore the possibility of transitional errors, which occur when the mint switches metal compositions between years but leftover blanks from the old composition accidentally get mixed into the new year's production run, and although nickels have maintained a consistent composition for decades, experimental planchets or leftover blanks stored in mint vaults could theoretically surface, creating a coin with unusual weight, metal percentage or coloration, and if a 1997 D nickel were struck on such a transitional or experimental blank, the rarity would be immense, especially if paired with other errors, and we must also consider the possibility of missing collar strikes, off-center strikes, misaligned dies, broad strikes or tilted die strikes, each of which produce significant distortions in the coin's appearance, such as stretched rims, shifted designs, incomplete letters, or expanded diameters, and while mild examples of these errors are relatively common, extreme versions, particularly when combined with additional errors, can produce coins of unrivaled uniqueness, and collectors love dramatic visual errors because they are easily recognizable and impossible to replicate, and then another important factor in multimillion-dollar valuations is condition, because even the rarest error coins lose value if heavily worn, scratched, damaged or corroded, and a coin worth $4 million would almost certainly need to be in exceptional condition, perhaps uncirculated or lightly circulated at most, retaining its original luster, sharp details and clean surfaces, and if such a coin emerged from a sealed mint set, a forgotten roll or an untouched hoard stored for decades, it would maintain the kind of pristine appearance necessary to support a massive valuation. Next 2012 D5-cent coin, and thank you so much for joining us again on this amazing journey into the world of rare coins, unbelievable mint errors, mysterious discoveries and life-changing treasures that can sometimes be hiding in the most unexpected places, and today we are diving deep into a fascinating scenario that shocks collectors, excites treasure hunters and sparks endless curiosity in anyone who has ever wondered whether an ordinary-looking coin in their pocket change might actually be worth a fortune, and today we are focusing on a modern coin that millions of people have used without thinking twice about it, a coin that has been spent at gas stations, supermarkets, vending machines and coffee shops across the country. Yet within that massive sea of ordinary coins there exists the incredibly tiny possibility that a single example of this humble nickel could be worth as much as $3 million because of extraordinary minting mistakes, freak mechanical accidents, unexpected die issues and rare metal anomalies, and that coin is the 2012 D5-cent piece, a Denver minted nickel that at first glance seems completely ordinary, yet under the right combination of unique minting circumstances can become one of the most valuable error coins ever theorized, and today we will explore every imaginable pathway, every technical nuance, every minting scenario and every error type that could theoretically elevate a 2012 D nickel from being worth only 5 cents to becoming a multimillion-dollar prize, and to understand how that is even possible we first need to consider the year 2012 at the Denver Mint, a facility known for extremely high-speed production, advanced minting machinery and massive output, and with billions of coins being produced each year under intense pressure to meet circulating demand. The risk of rare and unpredictable mint errors always exists, even though the mint uses advanced quality control systems, but because humans do not examine every single coin manually and because machines move at incomprehensible speeds, some errors that occur deep within the mechanical process can slip into circulation undetected, especially if the error is exotic, dramatic, unexpected, or caused by unusual circumstances that only happen once, and that is where the potential for extreme rarity comes from, because when a coin like the 2012 D nickel receives a combination of errors that is so unlikely, so impossible to replicate and so visually or structurally unique that the coin becomes a one-of-one specimen, collectors begin to value it not just as an error coin but as a numismatic miracle, and this is exactly how a simple nickel becomes theoretically worth $3 million, and one of the most powerful contributors to such an extraordinary valuation is the off-metal strike error, which occurs when a coin is struck on a blank meant for a different denomination or even for a different country, and because the U.S. Mint in the modern era sometimes manufactures planchets for foreign nations, the possibility exists, however small, that a foreign coin blank could accidentally be fed into the press striking nickels, creating a coin with the wrong composition, wrong weight, wrong color, or wrong thickness, and if a 2012 D nickel were struck on a copper-plated zinc cent blank, a clad dime blank, a leftover foreign alloy blank or even a leftover experimental planchet, the resulting coin would instantly stand out as an extraordinary error, especially if the strike is strong, well-centered and fully defined, because collectors value off-metal errors not only for their rarity but for their undeniable evidence of mint malfunction, and if that off-metal strike were paired with another major error like a dramatic double strike, the rarity and value would compound exponentially. And double strike errors occur when the coin is struck twice by the dies, but what makes these errors incredibly valuable is when the second strike is rotated or offset, creating overlapping design elements, doubled lettering, shadow-like images of Jefferson's portrait, distorted rims and surreal, chaotic details that captivate collectors because no two dramatic double strikes look the same, and if a 2012 D nickel featured an off-metal strike combined with a wildly misaligned second strike, the uniqueness of that coin would be unquestionable, and this rarity could easily push its value into the multimillion-dollar range, but this is only one path towards such extreme valuation, because we must also consider double denomination errors, which occur when a blank intended for one denomination is struck first with the design of another denomination and then struck again as a nickel, resulting in an impossible hybrid coin with two different sets of design elements overlapping one another, and imagine a 2012 D nickel struck over a cent or over a dime, resulting in lettering from two coins blending into one another, with traces of the previous denomination visible beneath the nickel design, an error so rare and so dramatic that collectors would pay astronomical sums to own it. And then there is the mule error, one of the rarest mistakes in U.S. mint history, occurring when the obverse die of one coin type is accidentally paired with the reverse die of another denomination, and although extremely rare, mule errors can theoretically happen in any year when dies are being changed and mint equipment is being reconfigured, and if a 2012 D nickel were paired with the wrong reverse die, perhaps the reverse of a dime or quarter, the resulting coin would instantly become one of the rarest modern errors ever minted, and collectors would immediately recognize its extraordinary value, and this possibility alone could create a multimillion-dollar treasure. But we are still only scratching the surface of potential error types capable of elevating a 2012 D nickel to unprecedented value, because another major category of errors involves the dies themselves, the hardened steel tools used to strike the coin's design onto the metal blank, and when dies crack, break, deteriorate, shift or fragment, the resulting coins can display dramatic raised metal features, giant die cuts, missing design sections, split die lines and visually breathtaking deformities that collectors find irresistible, and while small die cracks are common, massive die breaks are incredibly scarce and highly desirable, especially if preserved in mint state condition with full luster, and if a 2012 D nickel were struck during the exact moment when a die catastrophically shattered, producing a chaotic and extreme break pattern across Jefferson's face or along the Monticello building, the coin would become a historically significant minting accident, one that collectors would pay unimaginable sums to own, particularly if it were also struck on the wrong metal or featured multiple overlapping errors, compounding the rarity. And next we must consider off-center strikes and broad strikes, which occur when the blank is not properly seated in the striking chamber or when the collar fails, causing the coin to expand outward and distort dramatically, and although mild off-center errors are common, extreme off-center strikes of 70% or more are highly valuable, especially when the date and mint mark remain intact, and if a 2012 D nickel were struck severely off-center while also being an off-metal strike or double struck. The coin could become an unprecedented combination of errors, the type of coin that collectors would immediately recognize as belonging to the highest tier of rarity, and we must consider tilted die strikes, strike-through errors, partial collar strikes, rotated dies and misaligned die strikes, all of which contribute visual uniqueness and increased desirability, but for a coin to reach the $3 million range, it would likely require a perfect storm of multiple errors layered together in a single strike, which is incredibly unlikely but not impossible, and then we must also consider planchet-related errors such as clipped planchets, improper annealing, lamination errors, wrong alloy mixture, incomplete punch-outs and bonded planchet sets, all of which can create highly collectible anomalies, and imagine a 2012 D nickel struck on an improperly annealed blank that results in unusual rainbow toning, strange surface textures, brittle metal characteristics or color variations so striking that collectors immediately take notice, and if such a planchet error were paired with one or more major strike errors, the combined rarity would drive the coin's value upward, and now we must consider the role of condition, because even the rarest error coins lose value if heavily worn or damaged, and for a 2012 D nickel to reach a valuation of $3 million it would almost certainly need to be in mint state or near mint condition, likely pulled from a roll, a mint bag or a mint set before it entered circulation, preserving the sharpness, luster and detail necessary for top-tier grading, and such high-grade error coins are extremely rare because most error coins that enter circulation get damaged quickly, making pristine examples exceedingly rare, and if a unique multi-error 2012 D nickel appeared in high-grade condition, bidders at major auctions would. Next 1981 P5 coin. Everyone, and thank you so much for joining me once again as we dive deep into the fascinating and often surprising world of rare coins and hidden treasures, and today's journey is all about a coin that many people overlook, a simple piece of everyday change that most of us have handled countless times without ever imagining that it could one day be worth an astronomical fortune. So settle in because we're about to explore the incredible story of the 1981 P5 coin, a nickel that in its most extraordinary and error-laden form has been valued at an unbelievable $2 million, and we're going to break down exactly how such an ordinary coin could reach such a mind-blowing price, what kinds of errors and minting mistakes could create such rarity, and why collectors around the world are willing to pay huge money for a tiny piece of metal that originally cost only 5 cents. And the moment we begin exploring this story it becomes immediately clear that the 1981 P nickel is far from just another piece of small change because the combination of its transitional timing in minting history, the specific conditions at the Philadelphia Mint that year, and the unusual variety of possible errors make it one of the most intriguing modern coins ever produced. So let's dive deeper and talk about what makes the 1981 P nickel so special and how certain unique mistakes and anomalies could transform it from a common coin into a multimillion-dollar masterpiece, starting with the fact that 1981 was a year of immense pressure at the U.S. Mint, especially in Philadelphia, where high production demands led to increased equipment strain, die deterioration, and human oversight issues, and whenever you have a year where millions upon millions of coins are being pushed through the presses at a rapid pace you also create opportunities for rare and valuable errors to occur. And it's these rare mistakes, often produced in just a handful of coins or even a single one-of-a-kind piece, that collectors seek with such passion and dedication that the price of the coin skyrockets into levels almost unimaginable for an average person, and that's exactly what happened with the rarest forms of the 1981 P5 coin, which can include a variety of dramatic errors such as double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planchets, wrong planchet errors, die cracks, die breaks, die cuds, rotated dies, grease-filled strikes, over-polished dies, and even extremely rare transitional planchet issues, each of which contributes to the coin's incredible value when found with enough severity, clarity, and uniqueness to set it apart from all other surviving specimens. When we talk about a $2 million price tag we're not talking about just any error, but the most extraordinary combination of multiple severe mistakes, the type of coin where every aspect of its creation went wrong in a way that forms a perfect storm of rarity, desirability, and documented historical mint relevance, and this is where the 1981 P nickel becomes so captivating. Because this was a year where die deterioration issues were quite common, meaning the potential for double dies, cracks, breaks, and cuds was higher than average, but only a microscopic fraction of those errors would ever present in a way that collectors consider extraordinary enough to reach extremely high valuations. Imagine, for example, an extreme double die obverse, one so strong that Jefferson's profile shows clear doubling in the eye, hairline, and jaw, or the letters in Liberty and In God We Trust appear doubled to the naked eye with crisp separation, and the date 1981 shows an unmistakable duplicated shadow, something so dramatic that even a beginner could identify it instantly. And when such doubling combines with other mint abnormalities, like a dramatic off-center strike that shifts the design far from the center, or a broad strike that creates an unusually large, flat, and oddly shaped coin, or a die cut that forms a massive raised blob where part of the design is missing, then you're staring at a once-in-a-lifetime minting accident that collectors will fight fiercely to acquire. Another key error that could elevate a 1981 P5 cent to multimillion-dollar status is the wrong planchet error, where the coin is struck on a metal blank intended for another denomination, such as a dime planchet or even a foreign coin planchet that happened to be in the minting machinery at the time, and because these planchets differ in weight, thickness, and composition, the result is a coin that looks unusual the moment you pick it up, and when authenticated by professionals it becomes a highly prized treasure that can sell for enormous amounts, especially when the coin also displays clear, dramatic design remnants despite the metal not matching the intended specifications. The 1981 P nickel also carries enormous potential for transitional planchet errors, especially because around these years minting policies and metal usage were being monitored closely due to cost and production efficiency concerns. And any piece accidentally struck with leftover planchets from earlier cycles or experimental test metals would automatically become an extremely rare and sought-after collectible. There are also possibilities of incredible multiple error combinations, like a coin struck with a rotated die where the obverse and reverse don't align properly when flipped, combined with a major die crack stretching across Jefferson's face, paired with a clipped planchet that removes a noticeable portion of the rim, and perhaps topped off with a broad strike or off-center strike, forming a one-of-a-kind piece that represents not just a single error but a cascading series of failures in the minting process. It's these shocking combinations that lead collectors to place values in the millions on a single nickel because rarity in numismatics is driven by uniqueness, visual impact, and historical context, and when a coin like the 1981 P5 cent exhibits multiple intense errors beautifully preserved, it becomes a masterpiece in the eyes of devoted collectors. But beyond errors, condition plays a monumental role as well, because even the rarest mint mistake loses much of its value if the coin is heavily circulated, scratched, corroded, or worn down to the point where the error becomes difficult to identify, and this is why collectors dream of finding uncirculated or mint-state examples, ideally graded by top-tier authentication services, because the combination of extreme rarity and pristine condition creates an unbeatable formula for multimillion-dollar valuations. And this leads us to another significant factor that adds to the 1981 P nickel's allure: survival rate. Even if thousands of error coins were struck, which is highly unlikely, very few would survive decades of circulation, pocket wear, and damage, meaning that the surviving population of high-grade major error examples could be as low as just 1 or 2 pieces globally, or in some cases even a single known specimen, and when a coin is literally one of a kind, collectors with deep pockets will pay virtually anything to acquire it, driving auction prices into record-breaking territory and cementing the coin's legendary status. It's also worth understanding that the market for rare coins has grown significantly over the years as more investors, collectors, and institutions recognize the financial potential of high-value numismatic assets, especially those with undeniable uniqueness and historical relevance, and an ultra-rare error nickel like the 1981 P fits perfectly into that category. All these factors together, the dramatic and visually striking errors, the low survival rate, the significance of the minting conditions in 1981, the high grade of the example, and the intense collector demand, make it entirely understandable that the most extraordinary 1981 P5 cent can reach values around $2 million in today's aggressively competitive collector market. So as we wrap up this deep exploration into the remarkable 1981 P nickel, remember that even the smallest coin in your pocket could be hiding a life-changing secret, and if you ever come across a 1981 P5 cent that looks unusual, misshapen, doubled, cracked, or simply different from the norm, make sure to have it checked carefully, because you never know. You might be holding a multi-million-dollar treasure disguised as a humble piece of everyday change. Last 1994 P5-cent coin, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today on this incredible journey into the fascinating world of rare coins, minting errors, and hidden treasures that can completely change the way we look at everyday currency, because what we often overlook in our pockets and wallets could be worth far more than we ever imagined. And today we are going to take an in-depth look at one of the most intriguing and potentially valuable coins in modern numismatics, the 1994 P5-cent coin, a humble nickel minted at the Philadelphia Mint, which under extraordinary circumstances, extreme minting mistakes, and rare anomalies could be valued at a staggering $1 million, and we will explore everything from the specific errors that contribute to this astronomical valuation, to the possibilities that collectors and experts consider when determining why such a coin could be worth far more than its face value. And to begin, it is essential to understand the context in which the 1994 P nickel was produced, because the Philadelphia Mint, one of the largest and most active mint facilities in the United States, was under significant production pressures during the 1990s, producing billions of coins per year to meet the demands of the American public, and in any high-volume minting environment, rare mistakes, anomalies, and errors are not only possible but statistically inevitable, although the vast majority of coins are flawless and enter circulation without any issues. The rarest errors, those that dramatically alter the appearance, composition, or structure of the coin, can result in a piece that is effectively one of a kind, instantly commanding immense interest from collectors worldwide. And when considering the 1994 P nickel specifically, there are multiple categories of errors and mistakes that could contribute to its theoretical $1 million value, including off-metal strikes, double strikes, die cracks, die breaks, die cuts, broad strikes, off-center strikes, misaligned or rotated dies, planchet anomalies, wrong planchets, clipped planchets, striking on experimental or transitional alloys, grease-filled strikes, over-polished dies, and even the exceedingly rare occurrences of multiple combined errors that interact in a single coin to create something so visually and structurally extraordinary that it is unlike any other known specimen. And when evaluating why such a coin might be worth so much, we must start with the off-metal strike, one of the most dramatic and highly sought-after mint errors, which occurs when a coin is struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination or even for a foreign coin. And given that the Philadelphia Mint sometimes produced blanks for multiple countries and denominations, it is entirely plausible for an off-metal planchet to enter the press at the exact moment a nickel was being struck, resulting in a coin with an unexpected composition, altered weight, unusual color, and distinctive metallic properties that immediately set it apart from standard circulation nickels. And when such an off-metal strike is paired with other significant errors, the rarity, and therefore the value, can increase exponentially. And the next major contributor to value is the double strike error, which occurs when a coin is struck more than once by the dies. And while minor double striking is somewhat common, extremely dramatic double strikes, especially those that are misaligned, rotated, or partially off-center, can create doubled lettering, overlapping design elements, shadowing on Jefferson's portrait, distorted rims, and chaotic yet visually captivating features. And when a 1994 P nickel experiences an off-metal strike combined with a dramatic double strike, the result is a coin that is instantly recognizable as unique and highly collectible, because the human eye can immediately detect the anomaly, and advanced collectors understand the rarity and potential financial value of such a piece. And we must also discuss the phenomenon of double denomination errors, where a coin is first struck as one denomination and then struck again as a nickel, creating a hybrid coin that displays partial designs from two separate coins in a manner that was never intended by the mint. And if a 1994 P nickel were struck first as a cent, dime, or quarter, and then struck again as a nickel, the overlapping designs would produce an extraordinary visual error that appeals to collectors for both its aesthetic impact and its statistical rarity. And adding to this, mule errors, among the rarest of all mint mistakes, occur when the obverse die of one coin type is paired accidentally with the reverse die of another denomination. And while mule errors are historically scarce, any modern instance, particularly a 1994 P nickel, would generate extreme excitement in the numismatic community because the coin's design would be mismatched, impossible under normal minting standards, and thus instantly valuable. and die-related issues such as die cracks, die breaks, shattered dies, and die cuts also play a critical role in determining a coin's value, because as the steel dies used to strike coins wear, fracture, or break, the resulting anomalies leave raised lines, blobs of metal, missing sections, or distorted design features on the coin, and while minor die cracks are relatively common, catastrophic die failures that dramatically alter the coin's appearance are incredibly rare, and if such a failure were to occur on a 1994 P nickel, the visual impact combined with the historical context of the Philadelphia Mint in 1994 would make the coin exceptionally desirable, and condition is another key factor in the valuation of such extreme error coins, because even a coin with dramatic mint errors loses value if it is worn, scratched, corroded, or otherwise damaged, and a coin worth $1 million would almost certainly need to be in mint state or uncirculated condition, retaining sharp details, lustrous surfaces, and clean rims, and it is this preservation that ensures the coin maintains its full visual impact and collector appeal, further enhancing its market value, and planchet errors, including clipped planchets, improper annealing, lamination errors, wrong alloy mixtures, incomplete punchouts, or bonded planchet anomalies, can also significantly increase a coin's desirability, especially when combined with other striking errors, because the combined effect of multiple anomalies creates a coin so rare and unique that it may be a one-of-a-kind specimen, and the more visually obvious and extreme the errors, the greater the collector demand, because numismatic enthusiasts prize coins that are both dramatic in appearance and exceedingly rare in occurrence, and when we consider off-center strikes or broad strikes, which occur when the planchet is not seated properly in the collar or when the collar fails during striking, the coin's design may shift, stretch, or distort in ways that add to the coin's uniqueness, and while mild off-center strikes are often collectible, extreme off-center strikes where significant portions of the design are missing or displaced can elevate a coin into the million-dollar realm, especially if paired with other major errors such as die breaks, off-metal strikes, or double strikes, and rotated dies, misaligned dies, or tilted die strikes can further compound the rarity, producing irregular impressions and visual distortions that are impossible to replicate and highly sought after by collectors, and it is this cumulative effect of multiple errors in a single coin that often determines whether a coin achieves extraordinary valuation, because collectors value the convergence of multiple anomalies more than any single minor error, and historical context and provenance also play a crucial role in establishing the coin's market worth, because coins with documented histories, notable discoveries, or ownership by prominent collectors gain an additional layer of desirability, enhancing both their monetary value and their prestige within the numismatic community, and when a 1994 P5-cent coin is discovered in an untouched roll, an old mint bag, or a private collection with documented history, its rarity, condition, and provenance combine to create a coin that can legitimately be valued at $1 million, and it is important to understand that survival rate is equally critical, because even if multiple error coins were struck in 1994, very few would survive decades of circulation, handling, or environmental degradation, making pristine, dramatic specimens exceedingly rare, and when only a handful of coins exist in this exceptional combination of error, preservation, and documented origin, collectors are willing to pay unprecedented sums to secure ownership, pushing auction prices to extraordinary heights, and this is precisely why a 1994 P5-cent coin with a perfect storm of errors, extreme visual appeal, mint state condition, and verified provenance could theoretically achieve a valuation of $1 million, and collectors remain vigilant, examining coins carefully for anomalies such as doubling, metal composition changes, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, die breaks, and rotated dies.